This is a car driving system that I made a long time ago. At first, it looks fine, but it actually has so many weird problems that I had no idea how to fix. And because of that, I just abandoned this project entirely. A few months after that, I found out that Godot's default physics engine, the one I used for this project, is completely terrible. So the weird problems I encountered before might not have been caused by my terrible code. So I decided to make this project again, and it just so happens that recently Apex Rush got released, which is a racing game made by some popular YouTuber. This is the perfect opportunity to steal some clout. So I started with a semi-empty project. All I did was add the ground, this pillar, and some lightning tweaks. And then I went ahead and added a car, which in this case is literally just a box. This is the starting point of all this. I coded a simple script that allows me to move the camera around. So how do I turn this into a drivable car? First, I'm gonna add a set of wheels. Right now, these do absolutely nothing apart from look good. The first step towards making a drivable car is coding the suspension. A suspension is a bunch of springs that push the car up so it can drive over bumps and all that. To make it, I added these target points to each wheel to tell the car how far it should stay away from the ground. This blue line you see here is a raycast. Its job is to tell me if it sees anything in its way, and if it does see something, that something will be the ground. The raycast is basically the suspension. If the suspension sees something, it should try to push the car up and make the target point touch the ground. The first time I tested this, the suspension was a bit too angry, so I just made this weaker, and that looks good. After that I modified the code so that the wheels are attached to the ground. Now this is starting to look like an actual car, but as you can see, it just keeps bouncing up and down. In order to fix that, we must add suspension damping, and what that does is it tries to slow down the suspension at all times, in order to stop it from wobbling. I don't know, I'm just copying what the guy said in the tutorial bar for bar. After I added suspension damping, the car is stable now. After that, I added in the ability to accelerate, and now it's time to add steering. You might be thinking that steering is a very simple feature to add. Just rotate both wheels a specific angle in a certain direction, and you're good to go. Well, you could do that, but that's not a good way to do it. The proper way is called Ackerman steering. Let's say I want to drive around in a circle. If both wheels turn the same amount, this would make two circles with two different origins, and so it wouldn't feel smooth to drive around, because the front wheels would be fighting against each other for friction. With Ackerman steering on the other hand, you just take the angle of one wheel, then do a bunch of middle school math to calculate how much the other wheel should turn, so both circles have the same origin. I already wrote the formula for this in my old project's code, so I just copied that into my current projects, and the wheels turn nicely now. But the car itself is not turning. That's because the wheels have no friction. Here you can see the direction this front wheel is moving at. The blue line resembles the forwards and backwards direction, and the red line resembles right and left. In order to get friction, all I have to do is take this red line and push against it, and basically try to cancel it, which is very easy to do as you can see. Now, the car is pretty much completely drivable, but there's a few issues I gotta fix. Sometimes it just starts twitching, out of nowhere. It took me a few hours to figure this one out, and it's a very stupid problem. The reason this happened was because the suspension was detecting the car itself as the ground, so it was trying to stand on itself. To fix this, I just made the suspension unable to see the car. The second issue is that the car turns way too much at high speed. This is because the wheels turn the same amount regardless of speed, and that makes it basically uncontrollable. What should be happening instead is that the wheels should turn less depending on how fast you're going, like what's happening in this example. And so I implemented that, and the car is now much more controllable. After this, I decided to make a racetrack in order to test the car properly, which thankfully I can easily do using some Godot magic. In the racetrack, the car drove nicely. After that I wanted to try it on a loop, which I had a hard time figuring out how to build. I got close enough with this, which worked on the first attempt, but I found it very difficult to drive around this thing, which might have been a result of it looking slightly harder to navigate than the roads in those Indian bus driving videos. This here was my best attempt. After this I just gave up and went back to the racetrack. I drove around for a while, then I decided to add the ability to handbrake because I wanted more control of the car. I wanted to make something like in GTA San Andreas, where when you pull the handbrake, the wheels rotate to their maximum angle, regardless of speed. This is nice because if I'm about to hit a wall, I can just tap the handbrake in order to oversteer and avoid this. And so, I added that to my code. Now if I'm about to fall off the track, I can pull my handbrake to save myself. But you can't tell if I'm pulling it or not, because something important visually is missing. These markings left by the wheels are called tire skids. Without them, you can't tell if the car is sliding or not. The proper way to implement tire skids would be to stretch a 2D image on the ground that goes through all the points the car was sliding on, but I don't know how to do that, and I don't feel like looking up another tutorial. So instead, I use the same technique that I made this racetrack with, basically stretching a 3D model across the way. There are a few problems with this, however. One, it's not good for performance, since it's a 3D model instead of a 2D image. And two, the model stretches across all points, so if you slide it one place, then slide it another, the tire skids will connect. My workaround for this was just making the skids disappear really fast. As long as you don't check behind you, this looks very natural. I also tried to make the car be able to drift, but I just could not get that to work whatsoever. At this point, the car functions well enough for me, but visually, it's still just a box. So I decided to try and model a proper car, and my choice for that was a Lamborghini Countach. At first, this started very simple. I was just tracing my model around the reference image, and then I started giving it the details in the worst ways possible. I should look up a tutorial on how to model a car someday. After I was done with the model, I gave it some colors. Then I started modeling the tires, and after finishing them up, I put everything in its place. And with that, the box we started with is a completely working car. The tires, however, are not working. All I had to do was spin them relative to the speed the car is going. I didn't know the exact formula to do this, nor did I feel like looking it up, so I just eyeballed it. This isn't fully accurate, but it's good enough for me. So, is this new project better than the one I made before? It definitely seems like an improvement, but compared to other games, this is still terrible. I'd like to remake this once again in a year or so, to see how much I've improved in all that time. And that's about it. Thanks for watching.